The summer of 2025 arrived with tension humming through the streets of San Francisco. The Golden State Warriors, a franchise synonymous with dominance for over a decade, found themselves in unfamiliar territory. Once feared as the inevitable champions, they now looked vulnerable, caught between honoring the past and preparing for a future that seemed impatient to arrive. The Western Conference was shifting like desert sand. The Denver Nuggets had bolstered their rotation, finding balance between Nikola Jokic's brilliance and the next wave of role players. The Houston Rockets, long mocked as a rebuilding team, had made bold strides, pairing youthful explosiveness with seasoned veterans to become a genuine threat. The Clippers, once thought to be a fading experiment, had quietly pieced together a roster designed to grind out playoff wins. And while their rivals made moves, Golden State hesitated. The silence was telling. The franchise, always bold in its prime, now seemed paralyzed by a single storyline: Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga had been drafted as the future, raw talent molded by the Warriors' legendary core. His potential was undeniable, a slashing forward with size, athleticism, and a spark of star power. Yet potential had grown into frustration. His minutes under Steve Kerr never seemed consistent, his role never fully defined. And now, in restricted free agency, he stood at a crossroads. Would he take the Warriors' qualifying offer, a one-year, prove-it deal worth millions, or hold out for a long-term commitment? Every phone call, every conversation, every rumor in the Bay Area seemed to circle back to him. Until the Kuminga decision was resolved, the Warriors' front office couldn't act. And as time ticked toward training camp, Golden State was forced into a waiting game they had never been comfortable playing. Jonathan Kuminga was 22, but his presence carried the weight of a dynasty's future. Negotiations had dragged for months. Reports leaked that Golden State had floated a 2-year, $45 million contract, enough to lock him in while preserving flexibility. But Kuminga and his camp weren't satisfied. For him, it wasn't about numbers, it was about trust, opportunity, and identity. The Warriors knew this well. Day after day, media speculation painted the picture: the team's championship core versus the player who wanted more than the bench role he had often been relegated to. Kerr had never promised him starting minutes, and everyone knew rotations were earned, not gifted. But Kuminga wanted proof that the franchise saw him as more than trade bait. Meanwhile, whispers of sign-and-trade scenarios emerged. Could the Warriors package him for another veteran? Could they pivot toward players who would better complement Curry and Butler? Nothing materialized. The offers weren't enough. And so, the stalemate deepened. Fans grew restless. On sports radio, callers debated endlessly. Was Kuminga being selfish, or was the front office refusing to evolve? On social media, every leaked report sparked firestorms. Let him walk. Trade him now. Play him and watch him shine. The discourse was constant, unrelenting, emotional. By mid-September, the picture was clearer. Unless something dramatic shifted, Kuminga would accept the qualifying offer. It meant one more year in Golden State, but also one more year of tension, one more year of questions about whether he truly belonged in the Bay. While the Kuminga saga dragged, other pieces quietly moved into place. Free agents circled the Warriors, waiting for the right call. Al Horford, now deep into the twilight of his career, offered veteran leadership, championship experience, and a steady locker room presence. D'Anthony Melton and Gary Payton too represented defensive toughness, exactly the kind of role players Golden State had always thrived on. But the more intriguing names were Jeremiah Robinson-Earl and Dalano Banton. Both 4-year veterans, both journeymen fighting for survival in a league that often discards talent too quickly. They worked out at Chase Center, sweating through drills, scrimmaging in half-empty gyms, hoping to earn Exhibit 10 contracts that could springboard them into a roster spot. For them, the Warriors represented opportunity, not just a chance at playing time, but at relevance. Golden State's system had made careers before. To wear that jersey, even in preseason, meant visibility, credibility, and perhaps a second chance. Inside the locker room, the vibe was complicated. Veterans welcomed the competition, but everyone felt the uncertainty. The roster wasn't complete. Decisions weren't finalized. Every drill carried unspoken tension. And in the background, Steve Kerr remained calm, his voice steady, reminding everyone that training camp was about foundation, about rediscovering the habits that had built a dynasty. If the roster was unsettled, the soul of the Warriors remained intact. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler, three names that defined different eras of basketball, now aligned in the same jersey. Curry was the constant. At 37, he still moved with the grace of a player untouched by time. His jumper remained the most feared weapon in the sport, and his leadership had evolved into quiet steadiness. No longer just a magician on the court, he was the voice of patience in the locker room, the one who reminded teammates that chaos was temporary. Draymond Green remained the heartbeat, the enforcer, the mind that saw plays before they unfolded. His fire hadn't dimmed, though age had forced him to conserve it wisely. He spoke less but with more precision. When he did, the room listened. His bond with Curry was unbreakable, forged through battles that had redefined basketball. Jimmy Butler was the new piece, but he wasn't new to pressure. After a full off-season with Golden State, he was ready to integrate fully. His voice added edge, his workouts set tone, and his belief in toughness mirrored the Warriors' identity. For a franchise often criticized for finesse, Butler brought grit. His presence in practice forced everyone to compete harder. Together, the three represented a blend of past, present, and future. They weren't the Splash Brothers of old. They weren't the small ball revolution anymore. But they were still dangerous, still capable, still unwilling to fade quietly. As camp approached, the outside noise grew louder. The media painted the Warriors as a team stuck between eras, too experienced to rebuild, too unsettled to dominate. Analysts debated whether they were contenders or pretenders. Some claimed the dynasty was already over. Others argued that as long as Curry laced his sneakers, Golden State could never be dismissed. Inside the Bay, fans wrestled with mixed emotions. Chase Center filled with banners of past glory, but the present demanded new memories. Social feeds flooded with highlight reels of Curry's past brilliance, reminders of what he had done, and whispers of what he still could do. The spotlight wasn't just on stars, though. Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Quinton Post, these names mattered too. They were the connective tissue, the role players who would determine whether Golden State could withstand an 82-game grind. And through it all, Kuminga's shadow loomed. Would he embrace the role he was given? Would he force his way into a starting spot? Or would the friction between him and Kerr define yet another season of frustration? The uncertainty was storyline enough to keep the league watching. As the calendar flipped toward October, the Warriors faced the truth. This season wasn't just another campaign. It was a referendum. A referendum on their ability to adapt, on their willingness to trust youth, and on the durability of a dynasty that had already rewritten history. If Kuminga played with purpose, the Warriors might rediscover balance. If Butler meshed perfectly, Golden State could strike fear again. If Curry stayed healthy, they could still make one more run. But if the pieces didn't fit? If the tension became too heavy? Then the dynasty's final chapter might be written not in parades, but in quiet exits, in what-ifs, in memories of what once was. Still, one truth resonated through Chase Center: the Warriors were not finished yet. The league could change. Rivals could rise. Critics could talk. But until the final buzzer sounded, Golden State's legacy was theirs to defend. And as training camp doors opened, the story began: another season, another chance, another fight to prove that greatness doesn't fade, it adapts. The story of the Golden State Warriors at this moment is not just about basketball games. It is about legacy, money, time, and the weight of expectations. At the heart of it all stands Jonathan Kuminga, a young forward with explosive talent, and Stephen Curry, the face of a dynasty that changed the NBA forever. Their paths are connected, yet their battles are different. One is fighting for his future, the other is fighting against time. Jonathan Kuminga enters the 2025 off-season with confidence, but also with frustration. Negotiations with the Warriors have dragged on endlessly. The team has offered him 2 years at $45 million, with a team option for the second year. To Kuminga and his camp, this feels insulting. Around the league, other young players are signing bigger and longer contracts. Josh Giddey, for example, secured a $100 million deal in Chicago. Kuminga's representatives point to that contract and ask, why should Jonathan accept less? The Warriors insist they are protecting their flexibility, their salary cap, and their long-term plan. Each meeting between the two sides ends without progress. As the headlines swirl, Steph Curry remains calm on the surface but thoughtful underneath. At 37 years old, he has seen it all: championships, MVPs, heartbreaks, and triumphs. He is still one of the most dangerous players in the league, but he knows his window is closing. While the media focuses on Kuminga's contract, Curry is being honored back home in North Carolina. Davidson College and the Department of Transportation decide to rename Exit 30 on Interstate 77 after him. To the world, it is a symbolic gesture. To Curry, it is deeply personal. He remembers driving that road as a boy, never imagining his number would someday become part of the map. But legacy does not erase the pressure of the present. Training camp is only weeks away. If Kuminga does not accept the qualifying offer of $7.9 million, his future will hang in limbo. Rumors of a sign-and-trade spread quickly. Some fans believe the Warriors should move on and build around veterans. Others argue that Kuminga's talent is too valuable to lose. Inside the locker room, teammates whisper. Draymond Green questions whether Kuminga truly wants to be part of the dynasty. Klay Thompson tries to stay out of the drama, but even he feels the uncertain. The story intensifies as media day arrives. Cameras flash, microphones crowd into faces, and sound bites are captured for endless debate shows. Kuminga forces a smile, saying all the right words, but his eyes tell another story. Curry stands beside him, supportive but distant. He knows the young forward is fighting for respect, just as he once fought for recognition at Davidson. Yet Curry also knows the reality of the business. The team must think about more than one player. Meanwhile, the season inches closer. The Warriors return to practice, and the court becomes both synced. Then comes deadline day. The clock ticks louder with each passing hour. Will Kuminga accept the offer? Will the Warriors budge? Will a surprise trade reshape everything? Tension fills the Chase Center offices. Outside, fans hold signs. Some read, "Pay Kuminga." Others shout, "Trust the dynasty." The debate has become bigger than basketball. It is about identity. Are the Warriors still a team of the future, or are they clinging to the past? At last, Kuminga makes his decision. He signs the qualifying offer. 1 year, $7.9 million. It is not the contract he dreamed of, but it keeps him on the floor in Golden State. Reporters rush to break the news. Some call it a short-term victory for the Warriors. Others see it as a ticking time bomb. Next summer, the same battle will return, fiercer than before. Steph Curry, meanwhile, takes the floor for yet another season opener. Before the game, he is honored again, this time for his career achievements. The arena roars as fans chant his name. For a few minutes, all the noise of contracts and negotiations fades away. Curry smiles, lifts his hands, and the crowd erupts in gratitude. But he knows, deep down, that time is running out. He has at least 2 more years under contract, but each one feels precious. The Golden State Warriors have always been a franchise that blends youth with experience, speed with wisdom, and ambition with legacy. In the summer of transition, as the team balanced its future around Jonathan Kuminga and the final years of Stephen Curry's greatness, a surprising arrival reshaped the conversation. Al Horford, the veteran center, chose to wear the blue and gold. At 39 years old, Horford was no longer the explosive athlete who once patrolled the paint for Atlanta. But what he carried with him was something Golden State desperately needed: experience, calmness, and the ability to anchor a locker room filled with pressure and noise. His reputation as a leader stretched across the league. He was the player who spoke little but said everything with his actions. He defended, he passed, he spaced the floor with his shooting. And most importantly, he never complained. The Warriors, coming off seasons of turbulence and inconsistent health, saw in Horford the perfect bridge. He was not arriving to score 20 points a night or to dominate the highlight reels. He was coming to give Curry and Draymond a partner who understood sacrifice, timing, and the value of winning. He was coming to teach Kuminga and the younger Warriors that greatness is not built only on talent, but on patience and discipline. The narrative of Horford's journey to Golden State began quietly. After years in Boston, where he nearly reached the mountaintop, whispers started that the Celtics were moving younger, faster, and preparing for life beyond their veterans. Horford, still productive, wanted one last chance at a championship. Golden State offered not only that chance but also a system that valued his unique skills. The decision was natural. As he walked into the Chase Center for the first time, cameras captured him smiling softly, shaking hands with Curry, hugging Thompson, and exchanging respect with Draymond Green. In that moment, it was not about age, contracts, or statistics. It was about connection. The Warriors had added a piece that could steady their storm. On the court, Horford's presence was immediately felt. He set screens with precision, freeing Curry for open threes. He stretched defenses with his shooting, forcing opponents to respect him beyond the arc defensively. He brought structure, always in the right place, always communicating, always making the game slower for his teammates. His numbers were modest, but his impact was immense.